after we see these protests, it's almost really looking like, okay, they're being encouraged by the United States and Israel, and we start hearing reports of this massive military buildup, multiple aircraft carriers within the Persian Gulf and other geographically relevant to the Iranian soil and borders. And we see the maybe even during the attacks or the protests in January, there was reporting that the president was considering striking it then. However, with the Maduro situation, one of the carriers was near Caracas and not anywhere near being able to assist in the Middle East, right? So that aircraft carrier had to transport itself over to relevant territory. We see the buildup, right? There is this massive buildup, as I just mentioned. The Iranians, I think they know something is probably heading their way. There's the I use air quotes, negotiations about nuclear capabilities, whatever was left of the Iranian nuclear program in Oman, and multiple discussions in Geneva, Switzerland, with Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and the Iranian foreign minister. And the reason I use air quotes for discussions is that we never ever changed our position. It was always, you need to meet every single demand on this list, or we're going to kill you, or at least attack you. And the Iranians did not abide by that, obviously, as we've seen from the attacks today. So now let's head into the talks. They fail, obviously. The Iranians, they were never going to give up the nuclear capabilities, let alone proxies for the missile defense program. So, we see this buildup. If you've listened to the show the past couple of weeks, we've talked about this in depth and great detail. Now you have the preset, right? You know enough of the history and the recent events to understand why are we here today. What's happening right now within the Islamic Republic and the Middle East, the greater Middle East as a whole. And we know now, officially confirmed by Iranian state television and media, that the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed in strikes, leveled his compound in Tehran. This morning we weren't sure about his status, and we only learned during the protest today, if you were watching the stream on the protest, about confirmed, at least Israeli sources and the United States were comfortable enough confirming that he had been killed in those strikes against his compound, his place of residency. And again, you have the targets. The supreme leader was ousted, and other top personnel was targeted in this attack. So a very consequential moment, and really in the history of the world, right? Like it kind of seems like now this stuff happens all the time. This is now the second head of state the United States has removed in as many months now, with the Venezuela leader Maduro removed from Caracas, and now the supreme leader having been eliminated and strikes at his compound in Tehran. So, but this one matters historically a lot because it's a much larger country than Venezuela. It's a different history, right? Lots of other differentiating factors. We also see strikes against other relevant military excuse me, bases, equipment centers, stuff of that nature. And now we need to go to, it is confirmed that the supreme leader, at age of 86, was killed in the strikes. If you watched my stream yesterday morning walking around the Capitol, I predicted that one of the three main options would be to go after the supreme leader himself. He's been holding it up. He doesn't really allow, whether it's the Iranian foreign minister or the Iranian president, to really ever negotiate in good faith, because his position had always been, we're never waiving the nuclear ambitions or the right to enrich uranium. Now, yeah, I made this slide. So the bullets are a little off. I made this slide maybe an hour. I was doing research an hour ago. Didn't have time for the change. However, that has been officially confirmed by Iran now, just right before I came on the stream. And we also know the other key people within the Revolutionary Guard have been killed as well. I believe the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Guard, the head of the judiciary, was also targeted and killed as well. Let's go now. Even though there is no supreme leader, as we saw in Venezuela, removing Maduro really didn't result in regime change. The only thing that was removed was him, right? It was the same security apparatus. The vice president just got bumped up to president. So there wasn't an Iraq-style regime change in Venezuela. It's still the same. Nothing really changed except Maduro is in a prison cell in the state of New York now. So even though the supreme leader is gone, it doesn't mean there is no indication that there is regime change, at least as of the beginning of this stream, because the Revolutionary Guard remains intact. Other clerical leadership, other personnel that is necessary for the regime to function. We don't know about the status of the president, but maybe he's alive, maybe he's not. So you still have people that report to Khamenei, or reported, I should say, still alive and still commanding orders and following orders and plotting ideas and attacks, and as well as the proxies haven't collapsed, at least up to this point that we know of. Weakened, obviously, but not totally collapsed. So we are, so it's not really regime change yet. Now there has been reporting that indicates that this isn't just going to be like the Operation Midnight Hammer, that we might do this for a week, right? Or we could do this for several days, if not a week. We could do this for another 4 to 5 days. Or if we need to do it longer than a week, maybe than a week. We saw the President Trump speak earlier today about urging the Iranian people to take their country back, to take over key institutions and other clerical buildings and Revolutionary Guard infrastructure. So now, as I just kind of mentioned, the current regime is still there, even though Khamenei isn't. So it's still, as I've said, the regime is meant to survive, not thrive. It's going to take a lot of hits. The question is, can it stay afloat? So you have now the Revolutionary Guard is pretty much the backup quarterback. So the IRGC more or less is running the country, I'd say, right now. Khamenei made them report to him. They very loyal to Khamenei. They are very key to Iranian society and keeping the regime powerful. So it's their turn, and they launched some retaliatory attacks, penetrated the Iron Dome. We know of at least 2 missiles that have cracked through in Tel Aviv. The Iranians also attacked Gulf countries, U.S. military bases in those countries as well. And I think one woman was killed, at least as of before I hopped on the stream, in Israel. So very limited casualties, but unfortunately a death of a woman. We also, if you've seen it, watch Fox, watch some of the legacy media channels, they have their reporters on the ground. At Nurse Rod, got a couple of new comments here. At Ronwin Nance, you have had a busy day, and a lot of streaming today. And at Nurse Rod says, is the Iran hit confirmed? I I believe so. It looked like there was a video that went along with it, and the image looked pretty tough. And I believe that generator was what, like $1 billion or something. We'll double check that when we go Twitter, but I believe so. Which that's a pretty tough hit there. But as of now, that seems to be the most damage we've encountered, or at least have soaked in. Something else I kind of followed throughout the day was something that I've mentioned in the last couple episodes is about Iran. One of their biggest advantages that a lot of other countries on planet Earth don't possess is a proxy network. Regional influence in several other countries, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas within Palestine itself, the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, and Shiite militias in Syria. So they got 5 countries within the Middle East that they have significant Shiite military personnel that will act on the Supreme Leader's behalf, or what would have been the former Supreme Leader. It's still kind of going through my head that he's actually dead. Yeah, it's kind of shocking. But that Qasem Soleimani, for example, helped architect and build up significantly, as well with Khamenei also saw the axis of resistance grow in importance under his reign as supreme leader. I saw the Houthis announce that they would begin targeting ships and cargo shipping within the Red Sea again, so that might disrupt trade, so there could be some market volatility in that regard. Hezbollah has condemned the strikes, but has stopped short of saying they would attack or go in on Iran's behalf. And maybe that's the next thing, right? The proxies, more or less, have been kind of quiet. And as I've said several times, the regime is made to survive, not to thrive. So this could be the next chapter of it, is the proxy network gets more involved than they are currently. So we'll continue to check out responses from the proxy networks over the next couple of days. But if the whatever the remnants of the Revolutionary Guard starts freaking out, that's when the proxies will come into play. The next big question is really what's next. The strikes signal a decapitation hit against the political and civilian leadership of the country and the military leadership of the country. We'll try and check out who some of those other 40 individuals were that were killed along with the Supreme Leader earlier today. We'll also check out additional strikes against remaining nuclear enrichment capabilities. And is this a way to make the regime bend enough to where maybe remnants of the Revolutionary Guard can signal that, okay, we surrender, but we're not leaving. We'll comply. We'll give up enrichment. We'll hand you over highly enriched uranium. So is it a way to get somebody who isn't the Supreme Leader to maybe cease demands and give up the whatever the United States demands? Or, yeah, kind of what I just said, is it to get the regime to a spot to where it's weak enough to where they just give up? Okay, got another question from @NurseRod. So Khamenei is really dead. Yes, at least as of before I hopped on, I was watching some their legacy media, and at least from their reporting, is that Iranian state media for the first time has acknowledged that Khamenei has died or was killed during the strikes this morning. So we'll also check that out on X, but at least now that's the first time they've mentioned that he was killed. And Western media and the Israeli intelligence, probably I'd say around 3 o'clock to 3:15 today is when it was announced at the protest that Khamenei had been killed by Western media and Israeli intelligence and media as well. So great question. Now again, we're just going to have to take a look at the next steps. It's probably not the only day of strikes, right? There's still remaining nuclear facilities. The missile defense program is still intact for the most part. So the Iranians, they can still defend themselves for the time being. They're running out of time, but it's not over yet. They can continue at least until this time tomorrow at this rate. And as long as enough Revolutionary Guard personnel survives, it's all about survival. Just keep the regime going another day. It's getting much harder every day, you have to admit, but it is going to continue that way. Maybe they send everything they got at the Israeli. Who knows, right? Like, it's just a very difficult situation to kind of monitor today. I think some of the attacks against the Gulf countries were striking in particular because they're going after the economic levers of some of these Gulf countries that want to eventually graduate and evolve into less of a oil-based economy and move towards having more tourism, like Dubai in particular, and the United Arab Emirates, right? Oil is still big for them, but eventually, if enough Western countries, or even countries in general, start going green or don't need as much, then their main financial instrument is destroyed. So that's why I think maybe about that with the strikes against the Gulf countries. Got another question from @GMoneyForever2024. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank everyone that's commented tonight has been on the stream before. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure, thank all you guys who were on other streams today. So, yeah, as Ron once said, we had a very busy day today on the channel. Joining late, thoughts on possible Iran terror proxy / sleeper cells being activated inside Western countries as retaliation. That's definitely an interesting observation and question. It could happen. I'm just not sure how. I think it really depends on what they think could be achieved. Because, at least from the Shiite militias, they don't seem to do the whole suicide bombing as much as, like, the Taliban and other maybe more Sunni Muslim majority militaries or armies or weapon carrying personnel. But the proxies, I touched up on the proxies a little bit earlier, is that the Houthis have been really the only country that's promised to, or group I should say, that has promised to directly retaliate. Hezbollah has been, they've condemned the strikes, but have not they've stopped short of promising help, at least as of this moment. But as Nerdsrod kind of just mentioned there with this comment, is that could be phase 2 of this. If Iran is just getting struck and getting the crap kicked out of them every moment, is that they're going to need some help to make it a little bit longer. So that's where having the proxy network comes in. And if they start seeing, hey, if we're not going to, and if the proxies realize, oh, if the regime goes down, we lose all of our funding. If they go down, we're going to go down anyway, so we might as well go down kicking and screaming. That's a possibility, I think. Because if you kind of look at it, something else I could have included on maybe in the slides, is that several of these Western countries that recognized Palestine at the UN this last September as well. So as more countries recognize Palestine, that's how the other side, so the Israelis win by overthrowing the regime and eliminating the proxies, but the Iranians more or less win by buying time, and if Palestine is recognized, I'd say, or it's at least an instrument to which they could win, hypothetically, right? So if they're running out of time and the proxies understand that they are going to lose their funding regardless, they may just enter the battle. So very good question. And another question, do you vape or you got a cold? It's probably a mix of just being outside a lot and this weather and talking a lot today. I've had we're coming up on hour 5 of live streaming in total today. So I'm sure my vocal cords are running thin on, my vocal cords regime survival is at risk right now, or at least severely degraded. Let's just say that. But I appreciate the concern, though. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the bullets. We talked about proxies. Maybe it's, trying to get the regime to where they're willing to negotiate further, or what's left of the regime, and saying, hey, all right, next supreme leader, next leader of the IRGC, now are you ready to give up the nuclear enrichment or your highly enriched uranium? That's what it may be, because let's think about it. If there is total regime change, what does that cause? That causes millions of refugees, people get displaced, it's chaos everywhere. So maybe seeking absolute regime change is not the ultimate goal. It's really about removing important people at excuse me, at the top of this current regime to get the backup quarterbacks and the third string quarterbacks willing to surrender and give in to heavier demands.